Hey YouTube, what's up? My name's Lee, and I'm here to review the new movie Twisters. So is this one worth entering the suck zone for? Or does this one just flat out suck? I'll be back to let you guys know what I think after I play this clip.
Tyler, do we know which storm we're going after yet?
Oh, why don't we ask?
Kate.
Hi, Kate. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Ben. I'm a reporter, doing a piece on American storm chasing. Tyler's letting me ride along.
And Ben just had to promise to write nothing but good stuff about me.
Good luck with that.
Hang on. You didn't say which way we were going yet. Now, from what I gather, west, we double our chances. East, well, it's high risk, high reward.
Well, go for the reward. I don't want Ben to think you're boring.
Now, boring is not usually a problem for me, Kate.
Two cells to the west are fighting over the same inflow. They'll choke each other out. This one to the east is the sky all to herself. Moisture, wind shear, instability. All the things you need to give Ben a good show.
So, Twisters is the sequel to the 90s film original Twister, starring Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton, directed by Jan de Bont, written by Michael Crichton, and I had the other Anne-Marie Martin, which is a wonderful film. Love that movie. I actually just rewatched it to prepare for this one. But Twisters is directed by Lee Isaac Chung, and it's got a screenplay by Mark L. Smith, and the story is actually actually by Joseph Kosinski, which is interesting. And also, it stars a lot of people, so I'm just going to read the main, larger characters from the film, and it stars Daisy Edgar Jones, Glenn Powell, Anthony Ramos, Brandon Perea, Maura Tierney, and David Cornsweet. Pre-Superman workout David Cornsweet, by the way. And also it has Kiernan Shipka in it as well, which is funny because the last movie I reviewed had her in it also. By the way, I believe Universal is the one who is the studio behind this. I think Warner Brothers is just doing the distributing rights, I think. I need to start double checking this stuff before I hop on here and yap about these movies. Because I always want to make sure I give you guys an informed opinion on things. But also, we all have access to Google. So, I mean, do I really need to do that? Anyway, so, is it successful in what it wants to do? The answer is yes. The short answer is yes. The long answer is what this review is going to be. Now, one of the reasons why I chose that clip, because it showcases my favorite aspect about this movie, and that is the dynamic between Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell. I think that they have a fantastic repertoire between the two of them. They got a nice back and forth going. And one of my biggest gripes about this film, actually, is that it takes a pretty long time to get there. I'll be honest, when this first started, I was really nervous because it starts with Daisy Edgar Jones and Anthony Ramos, but also has a whole other crew. Felt very... It wasn't quite on this level, of course. It was above it, but I got CW vibes from it, and I was like, oh no, this is not good. And then after that happens, then there's more stuff between Daisy Edgar Jones and Anthony Ramos in New York. And then, it takes even longer. But once Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones sit down at that rodeo that you've seen in the trailer, that's really, in my opinion, when the movie starts. And it takes a little while to get there. There's some fun stuff before that. I think all the stuff with Glenn Powell and his crew is fun. And Daisy Edgar Jones is a compelling character in this, I think, for the most part. I just think this takes a little bit too long to get going to really start getting you really excited and invested in what's happening on the screen. Now, speaking of what's happening on the screen, it all looks fantastic. One of the things I love about the original Twister is how good that movie looks. This doesn't have the same look to it, just, based on how it's shot and everything. But as far as getting you in there in the nitty gritty of the storms and everything, it is successful at that. And I do think that this movie's directed well. Lee Isaac Chung is a filmmaker that I like. I haven't seen all of his movies. The film I liked the most from him that I've seen is Minari. That's a great movie. I was a little bit nervous about him going into this because, you know, he's an indie darling, and it's like sometimes when they go to big blockbuster stuff, you know, sometimes they struggle, or they, you know, you can't really recognize their voice and stuff. And I will say, this doesn't feel like the same filmmaker that was behind the camera on Minari, but this is a really, really well made blockbuster. You know, I think it's flashy when it needs to be flashy. Got nice character dynamics. The dialogue is, for the most part, pretty good. There's like speaking of character dynamics, there's some stuff that with like Anthony Ramos's character, and I don't want to spoil it or anything, but between him and like everything, that I feel was like unnecessary fluff to the character. And speaking of Anthony Ramos, one of the things in this movie, and you get this right off the jump, so it's not really a spoiler, but he is interested romantically in Daisy Edgar Jones. They make it pretty obvious, like from the jump, right? And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, oh, this could be a fun love triangle type thing, where, like, you know, Daisy Edgar Jones basically has to pick between these two different storm chasing guys, you know. And for a second, it seems like that's what they're gonna do. But they take Anthony Ramos off the board like immediately. It's almost like people, they were watching the dailies and they saw how charismatic and good looking and gorgeous Glenn Powell was, and they were like, oh, it's not even realistic if she even is interested in Anthony Ramos at all, which I think is like kind of lame. So if I was, you know, working on this movie, I would have punched up the romantic hurdles between the three main characters, you know what I mean? But it's really just kind of like background, and there's like extra stuff and extra fluff that they add to Anthony Ramos's character that, like, funny enough, doesn't even really get a resolution. It just kind of gets ignored and swept up with the rest of the twisters. Another gripe I have with this movie is I don't think they ever say twister in this movie. They refer to them as tornadoes all the time, which is fine, that's what they're called. But the movie is titled Twisters, so I felt like maybe someone should say the word twister at some point in the movie. I don't know. Now, as for the set pieces, I think they're all very well done, very well constructed, a lot of fun. This movie is like fun with a capital F, U, and N. You're going to have a great time in the theater. As a matter of fact, I actually am really itching to see this again on like a premium format. I saw this in like, without a crowd, by the way. I saw this without a crowd. It was like a 4 p.m. Thursday afternoon screening, so I was like pretty much the only person in there. I do want to see this on a premium screen before it loses those premium screens to Deadpool and Wolverine next week. I want to try to see this in either IMAX or 40X. I think 40X on this movie would slap pretty freaking hard, by the way. So that's kind of what I'm wanting to do. I might take my uncle to that, even though Furiosa almost murdered me, and I feel like this would be even worse. But yeah, overall, I had a good time with Twisters. I don't really have like a lot to say, other than I think the screenplay for this is actually really the biggest problem. It's just not as tightly constructed as that original film. That original movie has like no fluff, and it's got like very, very, very memorable characters like right off the bat. As much as I love Glenn Powell and I love Daisy Edgar Jones, they don't really hold a candle to Bill Paxton or Helen Hunt. Glenn Powell is like really, really high up there, though, to be honest. And to be fair, Daisy Edgar Jones has a few scenes where I'm like, yeah, this girl can act. I cannot wait to see her in more stuff. She's fantastic. I really liked her in the movie Fresh, with her and Sebastian Stan. I thought that was great. But Glenn Powell, in my opinion, he's the standout here, along with Brandon Perea from he was in Nope a couple years ago. That guy's a fantastic actor as well. Everyone else is just kind of there. Now, it does have a really nice supporting cast. There's a lot of faces you'll see and be like, oh, I know that person, I know that person. But even rewatching the original Twisters, I was shocked at how many like character actors I recognized now that I'm like older, and that I forgot was even in that movie. So this continues the tradition of having a who's who among the cast. Speaking of a who's who, David Cornsweet is in this. He was fine. His character is pretty one note. He's just kind of an asshole, which is fun to see. But I definitely seen him. I'm like, okay, I get why they would cast him as Superman, because he's definitely got the height and he's got the look. So now I'm just excited to kind of see how he decides to play the character. Because this didn't really give me any kind of indication as to how he would approach Superman. Not that it needed to, I saw him and I was like, oh, I didn't even know he was in this. But like I said, I really feel like there's a missed opportunity here between like the Anthony Ramos character and the Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones of it all. I just really think that like they could have bumped up that romantic subplot like even more so. Like, don't get me wrong, there is romance in this movie, but it's all between Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell. And my man Anthony Ramos is just, you know, it's like you don't even have a chance. You know what I mean? So I do think the movie has a solid setup. I just think the execution of that setup wasn't very good. Overall, it's just a really fun movie, right? Which is what the original Twister was, but that original Twister is plussed by just a stellar stacked cast and like just, I don't know, it's like lightning in a bottle, right? Which that's like the kind of the perfect metaphor for this movie. Not that this movie is even really trying to capture that lightning in a bottle thing. One of the things I really appreciate about this movie is that you can just kind of watch it and you're like, oh yeah, that was just a really fun time. It doesn't really have, it has like almost zero nods to the original film, which I appreciated. It's just another movie. You sit down, you grab your popcorn, which I did. You know, it's been hot lately, so I grabbed an icy as well. And I sat down, and I'm not going to lie, I just had myself a fun time at the movies. And, you know, sometimes that's what you need. I don't think every movie has to be like this big, grand masterpiece, life-changing event. Sometimes I just want to relax and watch some tornadoes fuck some shit up, you know? And that's what this movie offers. And I think it's going to be extremely fun to watch this in a premium format. And to be real, I can see myself just sitting at home, bored one day, and throwing this on, and just having myself a good time. And it helps that it has very, very attractive actors in it, who are all very, very charismatic in front of the camera. It's all directed, like, competently and well. The framing is nice. You know, there's never a time when you're like, why did you shoot this like this? I can't see what's going on here. You know, I just do wish that the script was a little better. And I don't know if I would have that gripe if I didn't go back and rewatch the original film, because that original movie is just so perfectly structured. Like, if you go back and you watch that original movie, you can really see how well written and constructed that screenplay is. Even down to, like, Bill Paxton's, like, fiance. In any other film, especially in that time period, she would have just been, like, an uptight bitch, you know? But in that movie, she's, like, an actual character who just, like, she just doesn't fit in this world. You know what I mean? And I will say, I think that this movie is really kind of missing a character like that, because that character really grounded you to the events of that first movie and really clued you into, oh yeah, these people are like insane. Now, granted, you had Philip Seymour Hoffman there as well to help you realize, oh yeah, these people are insane, but it's always nice to have like a character who's like a fish out of water in these kinds of films. Just kind of help you, like, you know, get adjusted and realize, oh yeah. And they kind of sort of have that character in a way. There's a reporter character. He's like a British reporter who's like, you know, writing a story about American storm chasers. But the problem is he's not around enough for you to really get that vibe. And he's also introduced, I don't know, I think like 15 or 20 minutes into the film. And so, you know, you just don't have that immediate like character that you flock to and you're like, oh yeah, I get this person. I kind of understand what they're going for, but it also helps, like, because like that character absorbs that information that you're like, that like, oh yeah, this is not a normal situation to be in, right? Whereas like in that first film, if it only had like Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, you'd be like, oh yeah, well this is just normal everyday stuff, right? Because that's what their normal everyday today is. That's pretty much like my biggest critique, is that I just don't think it's as well structured as the original movie, which I know is like a tall order maybe. But there's just some stuff I was looking and I'm like, you could have cut the fluff here. You could have taken that scene out. You could have punched this up that way. You know, just stuff like that. I'm really nitpicking here because I did have such a fun time. It is what it is. So my rating, after saying that, might not make much sense to you, but I'll explain it in a second. So I'm going to have to give Twisters 3 stars out of 5. Like I said, I really, really like this movie. Thought it was a lot of fun. Some people, they view 3 stars as bad. I don't personally. Heck, sometimes I give a movie 2 stars and I'm like, hey, this is still good though. I'll rewatch this sometime. It's like the best 3-star movie ever. You know what I mean? It just does everything that it needs to do, but there's nothing like uniquely special about it. As a matter of fact, there's even another Glenn Powell movie that came out this year where he's even better, which is Hitman. And then there's other movies with Daisy Edgar Jones that you can watch that showcases her skills as an actress better. And then you can also watch Anthony Ramos and a bunch of other stuff where he's showcased better. So it's just one of those things where you're like, everything here is really good, but it's not like the best thing in the world. But you're definitely gonna have fun watching it, and it's been pretty hot this year, so it'll definitely be worth going to see it in theaters and just kind of cooling off and enjoying some tornadoes fucking some shit up. And that's what this movie is. If that's what you want, then you're gonna love this, like I did. But if you're going in there expecting it to be some kind of like Top Gun Maverick level blockbuster, you're gonna be disappointed. Anyway, guys, that's my review for Twisters. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I was gonna stream this live and everything on Twitch today, and the wind was kind of taken out of my sails because I got home and my power went out and it didn't come back on until about 9 o'clock. So, you know, I guess I'll start Dark Souls up on Saturday. So make sure you go over to twitch.tv/thedastardLeebatman. Follow me on Twitch if you want to. Watch the streams. I do, of course, upload that stuff over on my other channel, completely unedited, Blended Caramel. I'll be back with a review for Oddity next week sometime. I'm also going to try to make some time to make a video about The Acolyte, which is a show that I have mixed feelings on, but overall I'm pretty positive. Oh, I have my review for Deadpool and Wolverine next week. Alright, y'all. It's been real. It's been fun. I'm going to try to get better at streaming stuff more consistently, hopefully. Peace.